trade, industry, and cooperatives. Honourable members, to facilitate the consideration of the Senate amendments to the two bills, the clerk is directed to circulate the schedule of amendments to all members and the relevant committees as required by the standing orders. I urge the two committees to prioritize the consideration of the Senate amendments to the respective bills and report to the House as soon as is practicable to enable the House to consider the amendments to the bills. Honourable members, the third message from the Senate conveys that on Wednesday, 12th November 2025, the Senate considered and agreed to the National Assembly amendments to the County Government's Additional Allocations Number 2 Bill, Senate Bill Number 8 of 2025. You will recall that this House passed the said bill on 30th September 2025 with amendments, following which I refer the schedule of National Assembly amendments to the Senate for consideration in accordance with Article 110(4) of the Constitution. Honourable members, the approval of the National Assembly amendments to this bill by the Senate now concludes the bicameral consideration of the bill in accordance with the provisions of Article 112 of the Constitution. The House is accordingly informed. Thank you. Next.
Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 19th November 2025, in the afternoon sitting. 1, the following legal notices and explanatory memorandum from the Minister of Energy and Petroleum. 1, legal notice number 181 of 2025 relating to the Petroleum Development Levy Amendment Order 2025. 2, legal notice number 182 of 2025 relating to the Petroleum Licensing of Petroleum Road Transportation Business Number 2 Regulations 2025. 3, legal notice number 183 of 2025 relating to the Petroleum Business Licensing and Petroleum Logistics Facility Construction Permit Number 2 Regulations 2025. Legal notice number 184 of 2025 relating to the Petroleum Operations of Common User Petroleum Facilities Regulations 2025. 5, legal notice number 185 of 2025 relating to the Petroleum Products and Quality Management Number 2 Regulations 2025. Number 6, legal notice number 186 of 2025 relating to the Petroleum Lubricants Facility Construction and Business Licensing Number 2 Regulations 2025. 7, legal notice number 187 of 2025 relating to the Petroleum Information and Statistics Number 2 Regulations 2025. Number 8, legal notice number 188 of 2025 relating to the Petroleum Retail Dispensing Site Construction and Licensing Number 2 Regulations 2025. And number 9, legal notice number 189 of 2025 relating to the Petroleum Liquefied Petroleum Gas Number 2 Regulations 2025. Second, Honorable Speaker, reports of the Auditor General and financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2025 and certificates therein in respect of 1, Kenya Veterinary Board, 2, support to water and sanitation services in peri-urban area, KFW loan number BMZ 2013-65-43.6, Athi Water Works Development Agency. 3, Nairobi Water and Sanitation Project, credit number CKE 113501H, Athi Water Works Development Agency. University Fund, Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development Mortgage and Car Loan Scheme. TVET Curriculum Development Assessment Certificates, Certification Council. Kenya Digital Economy Acceleration Project, KDEAP's credit numbers 7289KE and 7290KE, Information and Communication Technology Authority, Center for Mathematics, Science and Technology Education in Africa, CIMASTEA, Kenya National Commission for UNESCO Mortgage and Car Loan Scheme, National Youth Opportunities Towards Advancement, NYOTA project, credit number IDA 7356, State Department for Youth Affairs and Creative Economy. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Staff Mortgage and Car Loan Scheme. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay.
Thank you. Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. Yes, that's Udukon. Go ahead. You are a member of the committee?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 19th November 2025. Honorable Speaker, this is the report of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs on its consideration of the Penal Code Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 53 of 2024. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 19th November 2025. These are reports of the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives on its inquiry into, one, the alleged discrimination of local investors in the transport and logistics sector by multinational companies in Kenya, and the proposed sale of shares in the East African Portland Cement. Thank you.
Chairperson, Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee. Karoli.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 19th November 2025. Fourth report of the Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee on the status of implementation of the Constitution by 1. the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, and 2. the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Chairperson, Public Petitions Committee.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 19th November 2025. Reports of the Public Petitions Committee on its consideration of 1. Public Petition number 76 of 2023 by Mr. Roberts Junuha Wekesa regarding discrimination by the Teacher Service Commission on the career progression guidelines for special needs education teachers in Kenya. 2. Public Petition number 15 of 2024 by Honorable Vincent Musyoka, MP, regarding gazettement of Mwala and Kalama sub-counties of Machakos County as hardship areas. And 3. Public Petition number 20 of 2024 by Honorable Bernard Kitur, MP, regarding mismanagement of Nandi Teachers Circle and ownership of Mwalimu Plaza building in Kapsabet town. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I...
Dr. Christine Ombaka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 19th November 2025. Honorable Speaker, this is a report on the National Assembly delegation to the 69th session of the Commission of the Status of Women held in New York, USA from 10th to 21st March 2022. I was the chair.
2025 or 22nd?
2025, sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, I was
You
the
are
leader
the
of
delegation leader. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Chair, Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives on its inquiry into the alleged discrimination of local investors in the transport logistics sector by multinational companies in the country, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 19th November 2025. And Honorable Speaker, I also wish to, I also beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives on its inquiry into the proposed sale of shares in the East African Portland Cement PLC, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 19th November 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairperson, Constitution Implementation and Oversight Committee, Caroli.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the fourth report of the Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 19th November 2025, on the status of implementation of the Constitution by 1, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, and 2, the Office of the Data Protection Commission. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Public petitions.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Public Petitions Committee on its consideration of a public petition number 76 of 2023 regarding discrimination on career progression guidelines for special needs education teachers in Kenya, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 19th November 2025. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Public Petitions Committee on its consideration of a public petition number 15 of 2024 regarding gazettement of Mwala and Kalama sub-counties of Machakos County as hardship areas, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 19th November 2025. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, today, this Thursday, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2A, I rise to give the following statements on behalf of the House Business Committee, which met yesterday, Tuesday, 18th November 2025, to prioritize business for consideration during the week. Honorable Speaker, as you had previously communicated, His Excellency the President is scheduled to deliver the 13th State of the Nation address tomorrow, Thursday, 20th November 2025, in the National Assembly chamber. In this regard, Honorable Speaker, much of the business that will not have been concluded today will be deferred to next week. Notably, Honorable Speaker, the standing orders provide for up to 4 sitting days for the debate on the exposition of the public policy contained in the address of the President. It is therefore expected that debate on the President's address will commence on Tuesday, 25th November 2025. I urge members to be present and actively participating during the debate. Honorable Speaker, as you may be aware, we usually present this statement on Thursday, but we have to do it tomorrow because of what I have aforementioned, because of the President today, because of the address of the President tomorrow. Honorable Speaker, in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 42A, 5 and 6, I wish to convey that the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration is scheduled to appear before the House on the afternoon of Wednesday, 26th November 2025, to respond to the following questions. Honorable Speaker, I just wish that these members are present here so that they know when they're scheduled. Question number 085, 2025, by the member for Yatta, the Honorable Robert Basil, MP, regarding omission of gazettement of proposed administrative units in Yatta sub-county. Question number 086 of 2025 by the member for Ndiwa, the Honorable Peters Owino, MP, regarding harassment and cross-border challenges facing Kenyan fishermen in Lake Victoria. Question number 88 of 2025 by the member for Vihiga County, the Honorable Dr. Beatrice Adagala, MP, regarding investigations and justice for the death of Ms. Zaitun Kavaya. Question number 089, 2025 by the member for Tharaka, the Honorable George Murungaru. I'm trying to get his presence, but I can't see him. MP, regarding irregular allocation of police recruitment slots in Tharaka West Sub-County. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, the fifth question, question number 090, 2025, by the member for Turkana North, the Honorable Ekwom Naibun MP, regarding police recruitment irregularities in Turkana North constituency. Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, the House Business Committee will reconvene on Tuesday, 25th November 2025, to schedule business for the rest of that week. I now wish to lay this statement on the table of the House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Bayer. Next, we're still on questions. Honorable Bayer, we are expecting 2 cabinet secretaries. The prime cabinet secretary has 2 questions that are approved, and it indicated it will be coming. So you will, if he's around, bring him to the chamber. But hold on there as you look. The sergeant can bring him. The second one is the Minister for Agriculture, CS Agriculture, who is supposed to be here to answer questions. I have been told by the clerk that a letter came to the clerk signed by a junior officer in the ministry, not the minister himself, not the PS, indicating that he has prior engagements elsewhere which are not described either. You should, and I should say this when the Prime Cabinet Secretary is here, because the ministers are part of his portfolio. Take your seat, Owen. Take your seat, Owen. Where is your minister? Welcome, Prime Cabinet Secretary. I was addressing the majority leader that today we're expecting yourself to answer questions, and you are dutifully here, as you should. We're also expecting the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, who is not here. There is a letter to our clerk signed by a junior officer in the ministry. The letter is neither signed by the CS or the PS, simply indicating that he has prior arrangements elsewhere. That is unacceptable. Under the Constitution, all ministers or cabinet secretaries are responsible to this House before they turn anywhere else. They are responsible to this House, and they can be summoned anytime by the plenary, such as this, or committees of the House, sitting anywhere. Even if they summoned a minister to answer questions in Lodwar, the minister has a duty to go and answer questions, because that is what the Constitution provides. And this House has a duty not only to legislate, but to oversight the executive and to appropriate resources for those departments of government after which we oversight. So this House takes a very dim view of the CS Agriculture's casual response to an invite to come to this house. The Constitution also enjoins us, if a minister does not turn up on an invite, to summon. And any summons would carry consequences that are of a penal nature, like that in the judiciary. So we want to advise you as the Prime Cabinet Secretary, under whose portfolio includes parliamentary liaison, that any minister invited to this parliament is not invited as a joke. We invite you because these members of parliament represent the people of Kenya and file questions here on behalf of the people of Kenya in furtherance of their duty to hold the executive to account. So inform the CS in the meantime. I will define certain sanctions against that ministry so that we wake up everybody in the executive. Yes, Minority Leader?
Mr. Speaker, just to buttress on your ruling, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is a tendency that is creeping in this House, Mr. Speaker, where the executive thinks that we are bothering them by inviting them to this House, Mr. Speaker, or to committees of the House. Mr. Speaker, I am receiving a lot of complaints from our members that the principal secretaries and cabinet secretaries are not appearing before committees when they were summoned. And when I called one of them the other day, one of the principal secretaries, Mr. Speaker, he had the audacity to tell me that now I have to open an office in Parliament then. If I'm supposed to appear in Parliament every now and then I should open an office in Parliament. Mr. Speaker, this House was created to hold the executive accountable. That is why we are here. We don't have any other business in this country, Mr. Speaker, other than serving the interest of the people of the Kenya, Mr. Speaker. And the Constitution is very clear, Article 94, 95, and 96, that it is Parliament that takes care of the interest of the Kenyan people, Mr. Speaker. If you have no time to appear before Parliament, then you are in the wrong business. You are not supposed to be a cabinet secretary or a principal secretary. Mr. Speaker, when the new constitution came into place, and there was this proposal, or what happened was to remove the executive from the House, the executive now thinks that they're not answerable to the House because they don't come to the House as the old constitution used to be. Still, when you are summoned, and especially they are notorious, Mr. Speaker, cabinet secretaries, we are going to name them now when we come back after the address of the national State of the Nation address, Mr. Speaker. Parliament business must be taken very serious, Mr. Speaker. Before they used to complain, there was harassment, people asking for, nowadays there's nothing like that. It is them who are now refusing to appear to answer questions of concern to the people. So, Mr. Speaker, your statement is timely, and we must make sure that it is adhered to. Otherwise, there will be consequences.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, indeed, we do not expect a minister to defy a call to Parliament. Honorable Speaker, I also want to note that I saw the mentioned Cabinet Secretary at the Senate in the morning. And him refusing to attend the National Assembly is slighting this Assembly, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, like you said, consequences will be there. We would like you to actually be very, very harsh on the same and very penal on the same, Honorable Speaker, so that ministers know that they have a duty to come to Parliament, constitutional duty, Honorable Speaker, to come and be oversighted, because this is the House.
It is in fact not just a duty. The Constitution says they are responsible to Parliament.
Yes.
It's beyond a duty.
Yes. So, Honorable Speaker, they must honor that responsibility, and therefore we invite you to make such a huge penalty on them so that they do not ever again defy this. And also I want to speak when the Prime Cabinet Secretary is here, that we expect Cabinet Secretaries to do better than what they do. And that many times when our committees invite them or they bring statements to the House through the committees, these statements do back and forth because they don't give satisfactory responses to those statements that are requested, Honorable Speaker. And I think as a Prime Cabinet Secretary, please inform them. We do not want somebody to just give a statement because he wants to do away with the statement. We want statements that can actually stand the test of time. Because many times you see a chairman of a committee bringing a statement which has been signed by a minister, and that statement is trashed because there's actually no content and no significance in it. So this is important information that Cabinet Secretaries might have.
Karemba,
I thank you.
what is it?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I cannot wait for the sanctions because today, Honorable Speaker, I am very frustrated by the absence of one CSV, and we were anticipating that he would come. And Honorable Speaker, let me say that the absence of these CSVs are really making our work very difficult because we have to keep waiting for them until the time when they'll be available, and at the same time, every other quarter in the country is waiting for a report to be done. So, Honorable Speaker, the idea of sanctioning them is so timely. Do it right away, Honorable Speaker.
Ngong,
Speaker, thank you. I also wish to reiterate that, Speaker, apart from appearing before this House, Mr. Speaker, you should make it also known that the appearance before the committees is very fundamental. They should never abscond when they are asked to come and appear before the committee. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, I don't know if it is this House that should make a ruling or who should make a ruling that. Mr. Speaker, you know, there is a proper separation of powers. And then secondly, there is a separation of duties, functions, responsibilities. Senate is or represent counties. National Assembly represent the people. Sometimes I wonder, Mr. Speaker, why in most of the time the cabinet secretaries spend their time in the Senate, and yet senators, actually ministers are not fully responsible to the Senate than the National Assembly. And just like the governors are not responsible to the National Assembly.
The analogy is irrelevant. We don't care who else they go to.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
This House is the National Assembly.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
And the ministers are responsible to this House.
That is why I'm saying, Mr. Well guided. That is why I'm saying, Mr. Speaker.
And whether it is committee or plenary, they carry the same importance, the same weight, and the same value.
Well guided, Mr. Speaker. That is why I'm saying they should not give an excuse that they have been appearing at the Senate so that maybe they do not have time to come before this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and well guided.
Thank you. Mayaka, on the same? Quick, 1 minute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, also just wanted to emphasize, and especially, and you have used the same term that was made reference to this House, that they had other prior official engagement. Honorable Speaker, it seems like they have a template that they all use, because that is the same response all ministers and PSs give us every time that we call them to come before committees. And I think this needs to be taken into as a very serious matter. For example, in my committee, we've always sent letters to our minister for East Africa, for EAC. We have never had an opportunity to meet our minister. We are always having apologies, and yet we have an EAC summit coming up, and we have never been able to meet our minister. I think this needs to be taken very seriously.
Any committee that is having a frustration with a cabinet secretary, write to the Speaker. This House has dismissed a deputy president. It can do us to a minister. Yes. Yes, Koyo?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I've come running because one of the issues that the CS Agriculture is supposed to react to was mine. And I saw he said
the minister is engaged elsewhere.
In Moroni, and he did not contact me. No, he's not in Moroni because I'm not aware. Otherwise, I would have known. The issue that I put to him, people are dying on the ground, and I wanted him to come with a solution. And we are not going to continue waiting in perpetuity.
Point made. Prime Cabinet Secretary, you hear the frustration of my members, and you know that the Department of Parliamentary Liaison lies in your office, and we encourage you to whip these ministers to respond to invitations. Otherwise, we'll graduate invitations to summons, and summons will be followed by sanctions. And sanctions can be followed by something worse. Let's now go to questions to the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Welcome, Honorable Mudavadi. to answer the questions. We have 2 questions for you. The first one, I call the member for Laikipia, Kaskazini, Mheshimiwa Sarah Korere, kuuliza swali namba 87 ya 2025.
Shukrani Mheshimiwa Spika. Nauliza swali 87 mwaka 2025 kwa waziri. Je, waziri anatoa ripoti kuhusu idadi ya raia wa Kenya waliosajiliwa na wasiosajiliwa wanaoishi na kufanya kazi katika Jamhuri ya Muungano ya Tanzania kufikia tarehe 29 Oktoba mwaka 2025. Pili, kubainisha iwapo kuliripotiwa vifo vyovyote vya raia wa Kenya katika Jamhuri ya Muungano ya Tanzania kipindi cha uchaguzi uliofanyika tarehe 29 Oktoba mwaka 2025 na baadaye, na ikiwemo idadi ya vifo pamoja na hatua zilizochukuliwa kurudisha marehemu kwa jamii zao nchini Kenya. Tatu, kutaja ni biashara ngapi za Wakenya zimeathiriwa na ghasia za kipindi cha uchaguzi katika Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Na mwisho, kueleza hatua ambazo Wizara ya Masuala ya Nje na Ughaibuni imechukua ikishirikiana na serikali ya Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania kutambua walipo wa Kenya walioripotiwa kutoweka baada ya uchaguzi.
Sarah, although your question is in Kiswahili, the response I've received is in English, and the Prime Cabinet Secretary will answer you in English. Is that all right?
Mheshimiwa Spika, ni sawa, hata Kimombo na kielewa sawa sawa.
Whoever is saying no, read your constitution. There are 2 official languages, English or Swahili, or the third one, the Braille. Yes, the sign language. Go ahead, Prime Cabinet.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, let me acknowledge this communication from you, Mr. Speaker, regarding the failure of several cabinet ministers to respond appropriately to the calls of the House. I will take it up, and I'm sure when we meet next, there'll be a record of better response. So may I take this opportunity to apologize on their behalf, and at the same time to say that I'll take up the necessary action. Now, if I go straight to the question raised by the Honorable Member Sarah Korere, I wish to respond as follows. On the first aspect, that is on the registration and presence of Kenyan citizens residing, working, studying, or operating businesses in the United Republic of Tanzania, as at 29th of October 2025, my response is as follows. I wish to state the following based on the records maintained by the Kenya High Commission in Dar es Salaam and the Kenya Consulate in Arusha, and official statistics provided by the government of Tanzania. Data from the Kenya High Commission and the Consulate. Between 2021 and October 2025, a total of 766 Kenyan citizens physically registered with the Kenya High Commission in Dar es Salaam and in the Kenya Consulate in Arusha. In addition, the Mission online registration portal, which was very active between 2021 and June 2023, has so far recorded 276,186 Kenyan entries into Tanzania, covering both short-term and long-term stays. Statistics from the United Republic of Tanzania from July 2023 to June 2024 are as follows. During the reporting period, the government of Tanzania issued to Kenyan nationals the following: 448 students gratis passes, 879 work permits, 370 registered business entities owned by Kenyans, 1,806 residence permits for workers and self-employed Kenyans. This amounts to a total of 3,503 documented Kenyan citizens residing or conducting socioeconomic activities in Tanzania during the period under review. That is from the Tanzanian records. I wish to note that the observations here is that the high number of work and residence permits issued indicates growing labor mobility and expanding economic engagement by Kenyan citizens within Tanzania, presumably being driven by the free movement of people and capital in the East African community. This data shows a steady increase in cross-border economic integration consistent with the objectives and spirit of the EAC. The second aspect of her question is to do with the debts. Mr. Speaker, I wish to respond as follows. On the reported debts of Kenyan nationals during or after the elections of 29th October 2025 and the repatriation measures taken. To date, and based on the information received from the Kenya missions in Arusha and Dar es Salaam, there has been one confirmed death of a Kenyan national linked to the unrest surrounding the 29th October 2025. The deceased, Mr. John Ogutu, a Kenyan teacher at Sky Schools in Kinondoni district, was shot dead on 29th October 2025 at approximately 7 p.m. in Goba Center, Obungo district area, Dar es Salaam. Mr. Speaker, I wish to point out that in response, the Kenya High Commission, with the support from Sky Schools, conducted visits to government hospital mortuaries in Dar es Salaam to trace and identify the remains of Mr. Ogutu. However, these efforts have so far been unsuccessful. The Kenya High Commission formally notified Tanzanian authorities through diplomatic channels and requested their assistance in locating the body. I personally wrote to the Minister for Foreign and East African Community Affairs of Tanzania to seek his urgent intervention. The Kenya High Commission remains in constant engagement with Tanzanian authorities. However, the body of the late Mr. Ogutu is yet to be traced, and we are following up accordingly. And once the body or the remains are found, the embassy shall facilitate the repatriation. The third aspect or question is to do with Kenyan-owned businesses affected by election-related violence. Mr. Speaker, I wish to respond as follows. The preliminary assessment by the Kenya High Commission and field officers indicate that no significant Kenyan-owned businesses reported incidents of damage, looting, or temporary closure during the election period. The mission has only noted an incident at the Namanga one-stop border post where a tear gas canister thrown by a Tanzanian security forces landed on the Kenyan side and struck the KRA cargo scanner area. The incident was reported through established channels and additional security support was deployed from Kajiado. There was no major impact and no further related incident. The fourth aspect of the honorable member's question was on measures being taken to locate Kenyans who were reported missing after the elections. I wish to respond as follows. There were no reported cases of missing Kenyan nationals following the unrest associated with the general elections in the United Republic of Tanzania. However, the mission received reports of several Kenyans who had been arrested and detained in various locations across Tanzania. In response, the Kenya High Commission dispatched a team of officers to the respective police stations and immigration officers to verify the arrests, provide consular assistance, and engage local authorities. Following the intervention by the government of Kenya through the High Commission, all but 2 of the detained Kenyans have since been released. The remaining 2 individuals are Mr. Samuel Kagila and Stephen Dungu Kimani, who are currently held at Arusha Central Police Station. The mission remains actively engaged with Tanzanian authorities, and efforts are ongoing to secure their release. And the ministry has also sought assurances that the 2 Kenyans will be accorded full due process, including access to legal representation and timely production before a competent court. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Korere, umetosheka?
Mheshimiwa Spika, sio haswa sijatosheka kamili, manake taarifa tunazozipata nje ni kwamba kuna baadhi ya Wakenya ambayo hawajui walipo wapendwa wao. Pia kando na hiyo, Mheshimiwa Spika, tunajua kwamba taifa ya Kenya na muungano na Jamhuri ya Muungano ya Tanzania tuko na mengi tu ambayo yanatushikanisha. Mbali na binadamu, kuna viumbe vingine vya Kenya ambavyo vinapatikana Tanzania. Kwa hivyo ni vyema wizara yetu husika iweze kuwajibika, na namshukuru waziri manake ameonyesha kwamba wizara imewajibika, lakini waendelee kuwajibika zaidi ili tujue walipo Wakenya wote ambayo mpaka sasa wapendwa hao hawajui walipo, na pia ule uhusiano na undugu ulio baina ya nchi hizi mbili iendelee kukuwepo hata baada ya uchaguzi ya nchi yoyote ile.
Thank you. Tandaza? Honorable Tandaza?
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Langu litakuwa fupi kwamba tunajua kwamba Zanzibari ama Unguja ni kati ya Jamhuri ya Tanzania. Lakini tunashangaa kwamba wakati wa Zanzibari wanapokuja Kenya tunawapatia taratibu za kawaida kama ndugu zetu, lakini Mkenya anapoenda Zanzibar ni kwamba anahitajika kulipa takriban $44 kama bima, na haijalishi aidha mtu anaenda kwa siku moja ama siku mbili. Mimi nakotoka Tanzania ni jirani, Zanzibar ni jirani, na tuna familia kule. Kwa nini wao watutoze bima ya afya $44 ili hali wao wakija hawatozi chochote? Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
You cannot, please, yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, my question to the Cabinet Secretary. Honorable Speaker, as you're aware, we had 2 Kenyans who are lost. More notably, the gentleman called Nicholas Oyo, who's actually my constituent in Uganda. And this was just as a result of politics within on the Ugandan side, although that issue was resolved before I brought my statement. Honorable Speaker, we have quite a number of Kenyans who suffer in Uganda and in Tanzania for various other reasons, including even a question tied to the Honorable Korere, where we have people conducting business in those countries and they get harassed as well. Some even being suspected of getting involved in politics, and yet they're actually conducting business. Yet, in the reverse, Honorable Speaker, here in Nairobi, in fact in my constituency, we have so many Tanzanians, undocumented Tanzanians, right here in Nairobi conducting business. And our government does nothing. We just allow them to conduct business. So, Honorable Speaker, is it time perhaps that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs does a documentation of all the Tanzanians, all the Ugandans who are actually conducting business in Kenya. And this information be made public, that it can be shared with our neighbors so that they are aware that we do have people from their countries who are conducting business in Kenya, and they know what is at stake when they harass our citizens who are conducting business in those countries. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Professor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to raise a question.
Jaldeza.
Yes. I want to raise a question on the Kenyans who have been said to be held up in Russia being taken to the war front side of Ukraine. There are 5 Kenyans whom we have the names, and the names that I have is Edwin Wafula, Awad Mtindi, Isa Alake, Peter Muredi, and Patrick Obonyo. Whether the minister is aware of their situation and the way any means they have taken to repatriate them back to the country safely.
Kwame. Honorable Okwame.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, Mr. Speaker, permit me to say that a Kenyan is a Kenyan. It doesn't matter whether he is within the country or outside the country. If a Kenyan is outside the country, and in particular just next door like Tanzania, Uganda, and something happens to him, like the cases we are referring to, for sure our government must show a serious concern so that both Kenyans inside and outside can know they are Kenyans, and our government, together with other Kenyans, care and are concerned about them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hope the Prime Cabinet Secretary is getting us and is going to take some action.
You can answer those.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will respond to the issues raised.
Honorable Correa just made a complimentary statement. You don't have to answer to that.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You just complimented what he said. So, chukua microphone.
Speaker, I said there are Kenyans who are still missing, and according to the Cabinet Secretary, he says that there are no reports of Kenyan missing. But if from what we know, there are people who are complaining that more Kenyans are not known where their whereabouts are not known. So they should know where those Kenyans are and try to reach out to their families so that they can get full information on the people who are claiming their loved ones are missing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said, I did indicate in my statement that there is Mr. Ogutu who passed away, and that is indicated, and we are trying to trace the remains. I also indicated that there were other Kenyans who had been held in the police stations, and they have since been released. And I said there are 2 left, and these are the ones that we have records of. And I would want to appeal to the honorable member and to everybody listening that indeed, if there are any other potential Kenyans who are missing, the Kenyan mission in Dar es Salaam is ready to receive the details, and equally here in Nairobi, at the ministry headquarters, we can receive the details so that we can pursue and see if they are in danger or if there's any other reason. So we are open to following up on that. On the issue of Zanzibar and the claim of $42 for medical cover, this is something that I can only say that the government of Kenya has also been reflecting on, because we have seen situations where, in the situation of Kenya, people can cross over to seek medical help in our hospitals, and they have not been charged any insurance cover. So this is an issue that is with Tanzania. The government of Kenya is also debating it internally to see whether there is need to provide some measure of insurance cover for some of the visitors that come into Kenya, so that in case they fall sick, then the burden does not squarely fall on the Kenyan taxpayer alone, but it is also covered in the context of insurance. But that is something that I just wanted to highlight. We have noted, and we hope we can balance it out going forward. On the issue of the Kenyans who are in Uganda, Nicholas Oyo and Njagi, at this point in time, Honorable Mwenje, or Mr. Speaker, we can say that they are happy, they are at home, they are safe back in their country, and the government of Kenya engaged fully with the government of Uganda to secure their release. One of the things that we also know is that a lot of Kenyans, as they move, they do not necessarily register or inform the Kenyan embassy in the country they are going to. So some of these issues we stumble upon only when there's a moment of distress. So we also encourage Kenyans who are traveling to also indicate and notify our respective embassies where we have a mission, that they are indeed in that country. Should there be need for any SOS, then the government of Kenya can intervene. The other point, let me finish before.
Yes, Angela, what's your point of order? Why can't you have a question or?
No, it's a point of order, Mr. Speaker. Prime Cabinet Secretary is misleading the House because some of us live at the border, right at the lake, and people move in and move out even when they are going for fishing. They will not go to islands or to fish, then they move up to Kampala where the embassy is to report. They just move in as Kenya and they move out. So it's in order to mislead that we need to be reporting in the Kampala office while we have only gone to fish.
Go on and answer the question.
Well,
let him respond to the issues raised earlier.
Yeah.
And those of you who have issues, I know Undo, I'm sure you are tied to Angela with the lake and fish.
Yes.
Let him finish answering the earlier questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to say that in certain instances, some of these Kenyans who go don't even inform some of their own family members when they're leaving. So we can only encourage that communication is important when this movement between the various countries is being done. However, with regard to the East African community, we are a regional bloc, and we allow for free movement across the border. And as I did indicate, when I say that it is good to notify, there would be special circumstances when you notify. But really, when you're doing your own business, normal trade, I do agree with the Honorable Anjala, it may not necessarily call for notification in that sense. But this is in the sense that in the event somebody is going to overstay in a country, and maybe there could be some issues that require intervention. Yes. The other thing that, Mr. Speaker, I would want to pick up is the issue of Russia. I just want to point out that, again, we are pursuing, working both with the Russian government. Our ambassador in Moscow, Mathuki, is seized with this matter. And we are trying to ensure that Kenyans who are going there are not misled to enter into a war that they do not understand and put themselves in the line of danger. We have also engaged, in fact, President Ruto has even engaged with Zelensky for some of the Kenyans who were arrested or caught in this particular act of conflict and now are prisoners of war. So the government of Kenya is in negotiations to try and secure the release of some of these Kenyans who went to these front lines. We have since also advised that Kenyans should be very careful so that they don't fall into the trap of being lured into a situation which can be dangerous for them. Mr. Speaker, I think in terms of just re-emphasizing that it is the responsibility of the government of Kenya, and it has set up the State Department for Diaspora so that it can become more effective in assisting Kenyans that are living away from home. There was no State Department of Diaspora before. This is the first time, this is the first government that has set it up, and I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, that the State Department is working day and night. They have a 24-hour call center to track and deal with any distress cases that come in from Kenyans in different parts of the country. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that we must, all as a regional bloc within the East African community, respect and work together as members of the East African community, and we should all collectively move away from bordering on entering into xenophobia, where we start having unnecessary hostility against citizens of other friendly countries. It's all our duty, and it's also the duty of the East African community member states to make sure that we do not fall into a xenophobic situation.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First of all, allow me also to continue the debate initiated by my neighbor. Honorable Speaker.
This is question time, it's not debate time.
Fine, just to present the same question that to the Cabinet Secretary, Prime Cabinet Secretary, on the issue of families that strayed across the borders. What efforts is the government doing to ensure that other countries, friendly countries, neighboring countries, accord them the same treatment that we do when they cross over to this part of the country? Secondly, Prime Cabinet Secretary, through you, Speaker, there has been a lot of cases where foreigners seeking refugees in Kenya, running away from persecution or prosecution from their country, are abducted in this country and taken back to their country for prosecution without following proper process of extradition. What efforts, what measures the government doing to stop that unfriendly and unacceptable behavior? Thank you.
Yes, Russell.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. PCS, the issue of customs union, common market, and also the East African Charter. A Kenyan who moves to Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda, I believe he or she feels that they are still within Kenya because those charters bind all the East Africans. When we see some of the responses you are giving on the media in recent days, it is as if we are operating on different laws. Then if that is the case, then it simply means that the East African Charter that binds all of us is not working. Are we going to sign rafts of MOUs so that Kenyan citizens who are doing business or the expatriates in those countries or their students, their rights are safeguarded by new laws? Because from what I see, then we are operating on very different systems that Kenyans in those countries are not safe. Maybe your response on that. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Simply put, Prime Cabinet Secretary is asking what happened to the protocol on free movement of people, goods, and services in the East African community. Is that right? Yes. Junet?
Mr. Speaker, I wanted to ask a supplementary question on the issue of the recruitment that is going on Russia, the fight between Russia and Ukraine. As the Prime Cabinet Secretary has said, Mr. Speaker, they have made efforts to reach out to Russia and Ukraine on the issue. But what I wanted to ask is, it looks like there are criminal enterprises here within the country who are luring those people to go to Russia and fight in that war between Russia and Ukraine. Is there any effort the government has made to bust those criminal enterprises that are luring those men and women who want to go to that war? And my second question, Mr. Speaker, is supplementary, is on the issue of the policy of the foreign ministry. For example, on the Middle East, what's happening in the Middle East? This looks like we are in a state of confusion. Nobody knows what is the position of the government of Kenya on what is going on in the Middle East. So can the Prime Cabinet Secretary enlighten us on what could be the position of the government of Kenya on what is going on in the Middle East or part of the world?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to ask a supplementary question to the Cabinet Secretary of Foreign Affairs regarding what Junet has just alluded on the policy of the government. We have seen of recently claims by an airline carrying some Palestinians, stopping over Nairobi and later taking them to South Africa. Mr. Speaker, it's very saddening when we become a country of conduit of human trafficking, because it does not augur very well when we have already ratified treaties to protect human trafficking. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, it is the issue between our citizens here and our neighbors, Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. Mr. Speaker, it's the high time we understand from the Cabinet Secretary, what are they doing to make sure that we continue enjoying the tranquility of the East African Treaty of Free Movement? Mr. Speaker, we can even table evidence of Kenyans who have been asked to produce documents to be in Tanzania or in Uganda. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, I think there is a serious laxity in this ministry when Kenyans are held in different territories over the country. In my constituency, Mr. Speaker, we have had cases of children or young people going to seek jobs in Middle East, and by bad luck or whatever happens, they pass there. To repatriate that body back to Kenya, it's taking close even to 6 months, Mr. Speaker. So as a ministry, what are you doing to protect Kenyans when they are abroad? That is a fundamental question the Cabinet Secretary should tell us as members of Parliament. And last but not least, you need to be very clear.
Order. You are joyriding on somebody else's question and you're asking 4 questions.
Mr. Speaker.
Actually, you are making a speech.
No. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the last question. I've just heard the Prime Cabinet Secretary talk about the two Kenyans who were held in Uganda, and he said that the government were fully engaged. And we saw those Kenyans saying that their release came when the former president of this country, Uhuru Kenyatta, intervened. It is a shame. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. If Kenya is engaged, it's engaged. Even you can engage. Yes. Yes, Junet.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether you heard what the member said lastly, that the former president engaged the Ugandan government to release Kenyans from there. As who, Mr. Speaker? An ordinary citizen who was retired, Mr. Speaker, who was just doing his farming in Gatundu, Mr. Speaker. And lastly, this is the bad manner. We need to train them. This is the bad manners of United Opposition in Kenya. They just give a speech in Parliament instead of asking a question, Mr. Speaker.
Can you? Let's have the very last Wanjala. There is another question from Naisula. Let the Prime Cabinet finish this.
No, I was on a point of... Thank
Who
you.
is that shouting? Shimba. After Angela, I'll give you a minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Lake Victoria is a shared resource. And Mr. Speaker, all the waters in Lake Victoria are gotten from Kenya, because all the rivers that flows into Lake Victoria are from Kenya, except Kagera, the only one that is coming from Tanzania. Mr. Speaker...
Kagera doesn't come from Tanzania, it comes from Rwanda.
Yes, but it goes through Tanzania, it comes to Uganda, DRC. Yeah. So, Mr. Speaker, and all fish is bred in Kenya, because Kenya is where we have the biggest swamps, where fish are bred. But Mr. Speaker, when we go to the lake to fish, the Ugandans and Tanzanians harass Kenyans, extort Kenyans, beat Kenyans, jail Kenyans, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is silent. Mr. Speaker, what action is the minister going to take to negotiate with these countries? Because Lake Victoria is a shared resource for all of us, and we contribute a lot to Lake Victoria by providing fish and the waters. And Mr. Speaker, could also the minister activate communication department in his office, so that when there is a problem in Kenya, a Kenyan is caught in another country, like what happened to the Kenyans who are caught in Uganda, so that Kenyans are updated on what is happening, than them keeping quiet. We know they are busy, but they should have communication department to appraise Kenyans all the time, the way they were doing during COVID, Mr. Speaker.
Can you respond to those? And then we'll go to the next question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, let me take up the issue of the common market charter and the protocols. These protocols do exist and they are in force. Sometimes they may not be adhered to properly, but they are in force, and that is why we have regular conversations within the context of the East African community to also take stock and improve on how the East African community can run and how the protocols can be fully adhered to. However, Mr. Speaker, I think it's important for the Kenyans to distinguish between the common market protocols and constitutions of the various countries. These are 8 sovereign states who are members of the East African community. And they have constitutions. And the provisions of each nation's constitution applies to that country. So it is important that Kenyans and for everybody to appreciate that as we look at what is within the common market framework and the protocols, and we monitor their breaches and correct them, we would urge people to respect the sovereignty of the states. It's always very important as we go forward. The issue of extradition, if the government of Kenya is going to extradite, there's a process that would be followed. And I want to assure the Kenyans, that the House, that we have not had recently many or massive cases of extradition. If there was a record, we would be able to share that with you. So unless there's a very specific case that one would want to bring up, then we would talk about that. The most recent case that I can give you is that within the context of dealing with some of the illegal processes of recruiting and suspecting Kenyans to the Russian front, the government of Kenya did extradite somebody of Russian descent who was involved in what was illegal in our view. And not too long ago, even in Athi River, the authorities have busted a ring which had 21 Kenyans who had been locked up in a place and they were being prepared to be taken to the front line. The authorities and the security agencies were able to intercept this potential danger of 21 Kenyans going to the front line. So we are working closely with all agencies to ensure that this menace is dealt with. Mr. Speaker, there is the issue that came up of what is our policy on the Middle East. I just want to say that this House did pass sessional paper number 1 of 2025 on foreign policy. And one of the things that came out very clearly in that sessional paper is that Kenya stands for a two-state solution on the matter of Palestine. And this House endorsed that position, and it was in that sessional paper. So from that perspective, that is the position of Kenya, and Parliament did endorse that position. So we have not negated that position whatsoever. The other thing that I want to highlight is something to do with the civil aviation, and I would recommend, Mr. Speaker, that a special question can be developed around the Kenya civil aviation issue about the plane that had passengers that were then moved to another country. The civil aviation of Kenya had proper record, proper sight of that aircraft, and I want to reassure that Kenya does not get involved in any human trafficking. I think there are misleading reports that need to be corrected, and a proper question focusing on that would enable the relevant ministry to respond specifically to it. Mr. Speaker, I want to also point out that the issue of how we exploit our maritime resources and the fishing issues, I can only urge that the government of Kenya has established a department and a ministry that focuses on this area. And from time to time, they will be seized, and I think we have a competent minister there in the name of Joho, who will focus on, in detail, on what they are doing to ensure that we have fair and unfettered exploitation of our maritime resources. Mr. Speaker, I think on the quick supplementary questions, I believe I have touched on all of them.
Shimba, Karole, I won't give you. Shimba will be the last one. I want to go to the next question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Shimba.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Cabinet Secretary replied to a question by Honorable Tandaza, and this is in regards to the taxes being levied by Tanzania. I believe, Mr. Speaker, we are all guided by the East African Community Common Charter.
Ask a question.
The question is, why is one country behaving differently from the other countries in the arrangement of the East African Community, Mr. Speaker?
To be fair to the PCS, he answered that question, Shimba.
Yeah, but of course, Mr. Speaker.
So ask him as a question for probably further clarification, because what you're asking, he answered.
But he didn't actually answer properly, because we are all...
Order, Shimba.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Tandaza who asked the question is not complaining. Why are you wailing louder than the bereaved?
But Mr. Speaker, we are guided by the East African Community rules and portfolios.
So ask him the question.
Why is one country allowed to go outside the agreed protocols, of course, of the other countries? The second one, Mr. Speaker, is about this help desk. How active is this help desk? Because right now I've received complaints about workers who are in Saudi Arabia
and they were demanding for their rights, and they have been incarcerated for almost 2 weeks now, Mr. Speaker. How active is this desk? Are the members of the public aware about this desk internally and even perhaps externally? And finally, if, Mr. Speaker, you may allow.
You are a joyrider. One question is
Yeah,
enough.
if you may allow, that's what I'm saying, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, finish up.
I was in Ethiopia recently, Mr. Speaker. I found in that airport almost all the airplanes belong to Ethiopian Airlines. Today in Kenya, Mombasa has only 4 flights in a day, Mr. Speaker. Is the Ministry of Transport really working? But of course, I'm asking about, because he's the Chief Cabinet Secretary, he's also aware about the predicament that we are suffering as users of the airspace. Mr. Speaker, I want you to indulge the Prime Cabinet Secretary at least to assist us in this predicament we have. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Karoli Wangela, you're out of order.
Speaker,
Order.
PCS did not answer my question.
He did.
He avoided.
Karoli.
Honorable Wanjala, don't beat me up.
Karoli, you should help Wangela to listen.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Could the Prime Cabinet Secretary inform the House what steps the government has taken to address the recent claims by Uganda that they want to take the Indian Ocean, overrun Kenya and take the Indian Ocean, given their history of military adventurism in South Sudan, in DRC, in Rwanda, in Somalia, and in Burundi, and other parts of the region? And could he also assure the members of parliament of their safety, since in about 2 weeks we will be in Uganda for the interparliamentary sports? Thank you.
Mudavadi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start with the Honorable Karoli. I just want to assure him that they'll be safe when they go to Uganda for the interparliamentary sports.
There is no evidence to the contrary. I think Karoli is just engaged in comic relief.
Correct. And then I just want, on the issue of the Indian Ocean, I just want to say that there are conventions and international obligations which deal with landlocked countries.
And the African Union Constitutive Act.
And the African Union Constitutive Act is one of such instruments. So I want to assure you that we are not going to go to war. And we as a country have always, since time immemorial, provided safe passage and free passage for goods from landlocked countries. And we are not about to change that because it's our international obligation, but also it's how we grow the ports in our country. The second issue I just wanted to touch on is the issue around aviation travel in the country. I didn't quite get...
Shimba asked 3 questions about the levy to Zanzibar by Tandaza, about the lack of adequate aerial services to Mombasa, and the help desk at your ministry for Kenyans in distress internally and externally.
Good. Now, on the issue of transport and air, this is a private sector-driven sector, and the demand for services, especially if it is between Kenya, internally, intra-Kenya, internally, where you are moving from one port to the other, I think it's driven by the demand and commercial viability. And this is left for the private sector to determine. Now, in terms of the international connections with other countries, this also calls for further investment, and we are talking about how Kenya Airways can be supported further so that it can take up a bigger market share in the context of regional and international flights. And I know important decisions are about to be made on how the Kenya Airways can be supported. And I think the minister responsible for transport will soon be speaking to this particular issue. The help desk, Mr. Speaker, has been there now for quite some time, and it is serving a lot of Kenyans. I have personally visited the 24-hour emergency center of the State Department of Diaspora, and I can confirm it is functioning, it is active, and there are very many young Kenyans who are doing a good job in assisting Kenyans and who are in distress and families that are in distress. I would want to invite the honorable member at an appropriate time when he has some free time on his hands to visit this center so that he can get a first-hand feel of what it is doing. On the issue of the tax, you called it tax, but the Honorable Member Tandaza talked of insurance cover. We are very clear that if there are any breaches, we have mechanisms of negotiating within the framework of the East African Community, where a country has introduced something that is raising concerns with member states for it to be addressed. And it's within that framework that we shall address issues like the ones we raised. But I did indicate that Kenya also has been thinking about how to support its health infrastructure, because so many visitors do come, and then unfortunately some of them may fall sick, and it behoves on us to treat them as a nation. But these are infrastructure funded by the Kenyan taxpayer. So what happens when the others, this is why you sometimes have travel insurance, this is why you sometimes have health insurance, and Zanzibar is trying to cover their health component in that by imposing a levy. But these are issues that are being discussed within the framework of the East African Community. Mr. Speaker, I believe some of the issues that are coming through are also in the context of the next question.
Question by private notice, Naisula Lesuda.
Thank you, Speaker. I rise to ask the following questions to the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Could the Prime Cabinet Secretary clarify whether any senior government officials or their family members directly or indirectly own, control, or benefit from recruitment, training, or insurance companies involved in deploying Kenyan workers to the Gulf? Provide the full terms of the current bilateral labor agreements with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, including negotiated wages, complaint handling mechanisms, emergency response obligations, and repatriation terms for Kenyan workers. Explain the current capacity of the Kenyan Embassy in Riyadh and the consulate in Jeddah to respond to reports of abuse and to protect Kenyan workers in distress, including staffing, funding, safe house availability, and case resolution mechanisms. Explain the criteria and specific oversight mechanisms applied in vetting agencies before they are granted recruitment licenses, and further explain the number of recruitment agency licenses that have been revoked in the last 5 years. Provide the number of workers that have been repatriated due to abuse, medical emergencies, or labor violations, and the specific legal, psychosocial, or financial support that has been provided. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, could the Prime Cabinet Secretary explain why the minimum wages of Kenyan domestic workers in the Gulf countries has not been renegotiated in line with regional benchmarks such as the Philippines and Sri Lanka? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Cabinet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to respond as follows. First, Kenyans migrating abroad must have travel insurance cover, and I wish to state that no single insurance company has a monopoly covering Kenyans seeking jobs in the Gulf or any other country. Individuals and Kenyan private recruitment agencies are at liberty to choose their preferred insurance companies. As to whether there is details of family members directly involved or own or control, Mr. Speaker, I would want to say that we have a list of 594 recruitment agencies, and it would take quite a bit of time to go through that detail. But also to point out that as we speak, this Parliament appropriately passed the Conflict of Interest Bill, and if through the process anybody is found to be in conflict with what their role is, then appropriate action would be taken. The second aspect is, what are the terms of the current bilateral labor agreements with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, including negotiated wages and complaint handling mechanisms, emergency responses and obligations? I wish to respond as follows. Kenya is at an advanced stage of negotiating with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for a new comprehensive agreement that will cover skilled and semi-skilled workers with significantly improved wages and conditions. Just this week, we have received official communication on enhanced wage agreements for Kenyans employed in the Kingdom of Arabia. The third aspect of the questions was to explain the current capacity of the Kenyan Embassy in Riyadh and the Consulate in Jeddah to respond to the reports of abuse and how they protect Kenyans workers in distress. Mr. Speaker, the number of Kenyans living and working in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has increased exponentially, now estimated at 350,000. To enhance consular services, we recently opened a consulate in Jeddah to augment the mission in Riyadh. We will also be seeking more budgetary support to expand the capacity of our mission to serve Kenyans better. The government will be seeking funding for the establishment of a safe house for Kenyans in distress. The fourth aspect of the question was to explain the criteria and oversight mechanisms applied in vetting agencies before they are granted recruitment licenses, and further explain the number of recruitment agencies that have had their licenses revoked in the last 5 years. Mr. Speaker, a multi-agency committee comprising of the Department of Labor, Interior, Foreign Affairs, the Attorney General, the National Police, National Intelligence Service, and Director of Criminal Investigations, DCI, was set up. This committee vets all applications by recruitment agencies in line with Section 54A to 60 of the Labor Institutions Act of 2007 and the Private Employment Agencies Regulations of 2016. The criteria includes financial capability of a capital base of Kenya shillings 5 million, office space and facilities, educational qualifications of the directors and managers, degree for the manager and Form 4 certificate for directors. Others are individuals with others are to make sure that the individuals have no criminal record. They must at least be one Kenyan director. Foreigners must be in possession of a work permit. Mr. Speaker, there are currently 594 recruitment agencies with valid licenses. The government has to date deregistered over 600 other agencies on various grounds of malpractice. The fifth aspect of the question was to provide the number of workers that have been repatriated due to abuse and other challenges. Mr. Speaker, the number of distress cases handled from the Middle East from 2023 to date are 3,452. Finally, the member wanted us to explain why the minimum wages of Kenyan domestic workers in the Gulf countries has not been renegotiated in line with regional benchmarks such as the Philippines and Sri Lanka. The bilateral labor agreement for domestic workers was signed in 2018 and it came into operation in 2019. In addition, a meeting held in February 2019 between the representatives of the Saudi manpower companies and Kenyan recruitment agencies agreed on a minimum salary of 850 Saudi riyals, that is about 30,000 Kenya shillings. However, from 1st October 2025, Saudi Arabia officially launched phase 3 of its wage protection system for domestic workers. Under this phase, all employers who hire 2 or more domestic workers are now required to transfer salaries through official digital channels via the MUSAND platform. This step reflects the Kingdom's strong commitment to safeguarding workers' rights and ensuring timely, transparent, and secure salary payments. By January 2026, the system will become mandatory for all domestic workers in Saudi Arabia, regardless of the number of employees. The WPS system for domestic workers is the first system of its kind globally to cover this category of workers. And this represents a landmark reform from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia so that it strengthens protection, promotes fair treatment, and enhances trust between employers, workers, and recruitment officers. This initiative will support our shared goals of ensuring the dignity, security, and welfare of domestic workers while further reinforcing our collaboration. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, let me just reaffirm that our citizens are not merely migrating for work. They are being actively recruited worldwide because of their skills, resilience, and work ethic. The government celebrates this global recognition and will spare no effort in building robust systems, including bilateral agreements, real-time embassy interventions, verified recruitment, and enforceable protections, so that every Kenyan who steps out to earn abroad does so with the full backing and shield of the government.
Naisula.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Prime Cabinet Secretary, for your response. I just have 2 follow-up questions. Is it a coincidence that Saudi Arabia is where we get all, or Middle East, is where we get most of the complaints about Kenyans being mistreated there, and not other parts of the country? Because I'm sure there are other Kenyans who are going to work in other parts of the world, Mr. Speaker. I would also like to say that it is important that we get the full terms of the current bilateral labor agreement, because that is what I asked for. Even if you're working on the new one, it is important that we get to see it, because it will put, and I think, Mr. Speaker, just a statement that I would like to make, once these things are settled once and for all, it will avoid a lot of misinformation out there, Mr. Speaker. And so it is important for the Prime Cabinet Secretary to just come outrightly on some of these matters so that it can put to rest once and for all, because I'm sure this is not the first time that we've had this question in this House.
Shakil first. Kisumu Town East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm also the chairman of APNAC, the African Parliamentarians Against Corruption, and in the next meetings we are talking about the problems of migrant workers as one of these issues. The question that I have, I'd like a confirmation from the Chief, from Honorable Mudavadi, whether, for the Foreign Minister, whether in his knowledge, has the Gulf countries and Saudi Arabia now banished that system that they used to sell? I don't know what it was called. They used to sell their workers because these workers were under contract, and then they would literally sell them like a slave trade. And they were not allowed to do anything else, and they had no say in the matter. I was told those regulations were being revised. Can you confirm to me whether he's aware that they have now been changed, and actually that very, very defective and horrendous system has now been abolished? Thank you.
Tandaza.
Asante, Mheshimiwa Spika. Swali langu katika wale ambao wameorodhesha 594, nina hakika kuna Zawadi Abroad na kuna kampuni nyingine inaitwa Think North. Hawa walikuwa Kwale, kwangu Matuga, wakaweza kusajili vijana 61 miezi 4 iliyopita. Kisha wizara kupitia zile special funds za maalum za Uwezo Fund wakapeana pesa, wao wakachukua na pasipoti zao, miezi 4 imeisha na mpaka sasa hawajapata habari zozote. Mheshimiwa Spika, vijana hawa 61 jana walikuwa ofisini wakipanga kuandamana leo kuitisha pasipoti zao, kwa sababu kwa kipindi cha miezi 4 sasa hawawezi kusafiri na hawajui kunaendelea nini. Nikawaahidi kwamba najua leo waziri atafika na pengine wataweza kupata afueni. Ndio maana alizungumza Kiswahili, kwa sababu na imani wananisikiliza. Kampuni hizi mbili, kuna hatua gani ambazo wizara itaweza kuwashukulia za dharura ili waregeshe pesa pamoja na pasipoti, kwa sababu ni kama waliwatapeli hawa vijana? Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Oundo.
Speaker, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I just want to request the Prime Cabinet Secretary to clarify some two damaging articles that appeared in the New York Times in the course of this week. One reads, New York Times reveals Kenyans officials profiting from workers' abuse in Saudi Arabia, and they name the insurance companies and have got the details are extensive. Allow me not to quote because I'm not an author of the article. Secondly, there's also a similar article that is, Kenya's key export used to be coffee, now it's cheap labor. Very demeaning statements. I just want the Prime Cabinet Secretary and be also the Minister of Foreign Affairs to clarify the veracity or the authenticity or if there's any factual details about these two statements. Thank you.
Waziri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start with the issues raised by Honorable Oundo. First of all, I want to state that as a government, we take great exception to the articles that were pervaded by the New York Times and, of course, repeated or just reproduced by one of the local dailies. We want to state clearly that Kenya is a responsible member of the international community, and we do not engage in any human trafficking, neither does the president of this country or his government engage in any slave trading. It is indeed unfortunate and irresponsible that those are the kind of communication that we see. It is unfortunate that that kind of sensationalism was brought out. And I think we should all treat that with the condemnation that it deserves. And clearly there are some defamatory issues that are raised in these articles. And that will be a matter for a different aspect. Now, let me come to the specific issues that I raised. First of all, the data we have is so clear, and labor, as they say, coffee and labor, comparing to coffee and labor, I think that is mischievous, because the earnings of coffee, tea, and others are known, the statistics are there, and the earnings are very high and they are growing. So for the New York Times to actually stoop so low and purvey a falsehood that migrant workers on their own is not factual, and it's wrong. The second thing that I would want to point out now is that the issue that raised by the Honorable Shakil, as part of the reforms within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is that they have moved away from the kafala system. I think that's what you are looking for. And as we talk about improving the conditions and negotiating, and our teams are negotiating, we are sure that in the course of next year, as we conclude the negotiation of these bilateral agreements, the earnings of Kenyan migrant workers are going to be more in tandem and at par with other countries that had entered this specific area earlier. The other thing that I would want to point out, Mr. Speaker, is that Kenyan migrant workers are not the only migrant workers in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. When you talk of countries like Sri Lanka, Philippines, India, Pakistan, you have even more migrant workers in those countries. Some of them have them in their millions. So Kenya is a very small component when compared to some of these countries. And therefore, the perpetuation of a narrative that it's only Kenya that is in distress, I think is not the case. But we focus on Kenyans, and we are going to work to improve the arrangements for Kenyans through bilateral agreements, not just in Saudi Arabia, but in all Gulf countries and even in other countries. The youth that were from Matuga, I'll request that we get a little more detail from the Honorable Member so that these two companies can be put on immediate spotlight by the Ministry and the Department of Diaspora Affairs, and if there are any criminal activities, also by the agencies that deal with the criminal aspects, because we want clean and fair play for young Kenyans who are seeking opportunities abroad. Mr. Speaker, as to the labor agreement, I have no problem, Mr. Speaker, through your office. We can avail copies of the bilateral labor agreement so that they can...
You can forward to my office. It will be circulated to the members.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll end there, honorable members, so that we go to the next business. Prime Cabinet Secretary, I think our engagement with you can end here. You are released to go back to your office, carry on with other duties. And please convey to your cabinet colleagues to take this house seriously. And we will sanction those who don't honor our invitations.
So instructed, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Order number 8, motion, consideration of comprehensive economic partnership agreement between the Republic of Kenya and the United Arab Emirates. Question on proposed amendment to be put.
Order members on their feet, take your seats. Ondo, don't freeze, take your seat. Honorable members, records show that an amendment was moved by the Honorable Dr. Nyekal, and it is now a question to be put on the amendment at order number 8. If we carry the amendment, then I will have the motion as amended. Now I put the question on the amendment at order number 9 motion, which is that the motion be amended by inserting the following words immediately after the phrase data for pharmaceutical products, and Article 213 non-tariff measures in relation to health products and technologies. That the consequential amendment be effected in the report thereof. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. Those of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Now the motion as amended will read as follows: that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives on its consideration of the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement between the Republic of Kenya and the United Arab Emirates laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 13th November 2025, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 8.4 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act, Cap 4D, approves the ratification of the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement between the Republic of Kenya and the United Arab Emirates, subject to reservations of Article 1333, protection of undisclosed test or other data for pharmaceutical products, and Article 213, non-tariff measures in relation to health products and technologies. That is now the motion before the House. The debate continues, and Honorable Dr. Nyekal requested that I give him the first opportunity to speak to the motion as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This motion has 1 hour and 20 minutes to go. Dr. Nyekal, and everybody who debates now, debate on the motion as amended. Clerk, will you circulate that to the members?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start by thanking the honorable members for actually passing the amendment that we introduced on 2.13. Mr. Speaker, I don't know much about trade, but I have faith, and the report I've seen, the Committee on Trade has done due diligence on all the articles and therefore protected the interests of Kenya. But I only want to speak on the other amendments, 13.33, Mr. Speaker, because this again was an amendment that was actually affecting the use of health products and technologies. Mr. Speaker, it's always important that when we have these trade amendments, it is important to look how health is affected, because there is a temptation to look at all the health products and technologies as also merely part of the goods that are be traded, the way you would trade maize, the way you would trade sugar, the way you would trade telephones, and so on. But this is not so, Mr. Speaker, and quite often, if you are not careful, you find that articles are introduced that are actually very restrictive. Like on the 13.33, basically was introducing what is introducing what is called data exclusivity, meaning, Mr. Speaker,
that once a product is introduced in the country and our regulatory authority is given some data on that drug or that health product technology, then nobody else for 5 years can actually use that data or introduce a similar product for 5 years. And what that does, Madam Speaker, is that it actually, in a way, extends the patent period, and which means that even a drug that is out of patent still is protected by this. And what the most impactful aspect is that it then inhibits the introduction of generics. And normally, the branded molecules are so expensive. And once you have generics that are working, that are actually more cost-effective, you cannot use them. And there's evidence all over the world that countries that have done that have actually ended up that the cost of their healthcare go up, the cost of drugs go up. And many countries actually disagree. Like I appreciate the work that was done by the committee, pulling out examples like South Africa actually declined to sign an agreement that brought that aspect. Nigeria is negotiating currently, but is resistant to introduce data exclusivity. India, again, does not contain that at all. And in Colombia and the US, FTA, a 5-year data inclusivity resulted in a $400 million increase in the cost of drugs over a period of time. And countries like Colombia, United States, Jordan, Thailand actually have realized this, even Netherlands. So once again, I appreciate what the committee did in looking at it, and therefore bringing reservations on Article 13.33. And once again, I appreciate the fact that we have also brought in reservations on 2.13 and therefore protected our health sector from a possible high cost. The one we've just done for those who are not there was actually worse because it was totally inhibiting our regulatory authority, the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, from taking action by introducing an issue of non-tariff barriers, so that our whole regulatory authority is actually considered in its actions as a non-tariff barrier. And with that, Madam Speaker, I therefore support the report as amended.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Matungulu. Honourable Stephen Muller, I can see you have the intervention button. Okay, you're not there. Okay, Honourable Shabir.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand to support the motion with the amendment that we have just passed. The motion that was put through to the Trade Committee to rectify an agreement with the Emirates had within it a little bit of mischief. The mischief related to the issue of drugs. And if we had not been able to, and I want to thank the House for agreeing to amend that particular element. If it had not been done, and if we had not been cautious enough, the price of drugs in this country was going to double, even triple, because we would now be stuck for 5 years with certain brands who have already established themselves in the Emirates from other countries, so they're not seen as Western brands, and they would now, we would be now bound to purchase from them. The generic drugs, even for AIDS, madam, even for diabetes as I suffer, prostate cancer, and others, the cost of the drugs are coming down. However, the cost of the drugs of the branded product is horrendously high. And it is very important that when we are making trade agreements with other countries, that we go through with a tooth comb in some of these things, because hidden within the various pages are some very, very oppressive terms. I want to refer particularly to the trade agreement we had, which was to be rectified with Britain in the last Parliament. And we had to stop that because we found that within the trade agreement, they had brought out an element of beet sugar, and that was going to affect our whole sugar industry very greatly. So, Madam Speaker, I want to thank my brother, Honorable Nikal, for flashing this out. I want to thank the ad hoc committee who've been looking at it, and the business caucus who brought this issue up. And I want to thank the Trade Committee for allowing us to make this particular amendment so that we can protect the interest of the poor, especially now, Madam Speaker, that we have difficulties on the question of medicine, and SHA is trying to solve some of those difficulties, as well as KEMSA. We were not, corruption, sometimes people work due to the debt, and come up with certain clauses that bind the country at a later time. Luckily, we've picked this one up, and I do support most wholeheartedly. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Ruaraka? Member for Ruaraka, do you want to contribute?
No, Madam Speaker, I'm waiting to contribute in the next matter in the order paper.
All right. The Honourable Member for Tetu?
Speaker, I also do not wish to contribute to this. I'm waiting for the next.
Okay. Honourable Owen Bayer?
Honourable Speaker, I think this motion was comprehensively debated, and I think what was an issue was the amendment. And I think previously there was a general agreement on the amendment, and therefore you can see, Honourable Speaker, it is important that we move to Article 95 and say that, Honourable Speaker, the debate on this is enough, and let's move to the next. I thank you.
Mover? Who was the mover?
Yeah, it's the mood of the House.
Yes, Honourable Keitanya, are you the one?
Yes. Honourable Speaker, yes, it was the one who tabled. So if it's the mood of the House, we can actually move. We can reply. Yeah, Honourable Speaker, I beg to reply.
Okay, next order.
Order number 9, the Judges' Retirement Benefits Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2025, second reading.
Oh. Is it the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee? Okay, let's proceed, Honourable Kajwa. But there seems to be a dispute here. He says that it's a bill of the majority leader. Why don't you agree or approach the bench and speak to each other? Honorable Kajwang, why don't we let... then you will be able, you'll contribute. Thank you. Okay, proceed, Honorable Owe.
No, I want to say this, Honorable Speaker, and thank you. It's important to know that this is a bill of the majority leader, but it is also important that I give an opportunity to the Honorable Kajwang to move the bill, then I'll come in seconding, because of the committee, I think, has done a lot of work on this and may have a lot of experience on the matter. And therefore, I want to cede the floor to the Honorable Kajwang to move the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank you, Deputy Majority Leader, for that guidance. Madam Speaker, this is a very important bill, very, very important for the justice sector. We are discussing here the retirement of judges and the pension schemes. Ordinarily, this could be moved by the leader of majority because he's the author of the bill, but those of us who have been in the committee and who have investigated this issue, interrogated this issue, we feel that we need to put a few things on the floor so that when the bill is debated, it is debated because of substance and content rather than from a standpoint or a perspective of passion. You know, since 1993, the judges were formally removed from the executive. And all these years, there was the move to start the superannuation scheme, which therefore became what you call Superannuation Act. I think the citation itself is called Public Service Superannuation Scheme Act of 2021. And for all this time, the public sector have enjoyed a fairly modern and robust pension system. This House, for example, I see. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the Judges' Retirement Benefits Bill 2025 to be now read a second time. I was on the point of demonstrating that for more than 2 centuries, the judges have plowed the garden without any representative of a future retirement system. And I have shown that public sector in the act called Public Service Superannuation Scheme in 2021 have carried all the public sector or public service retirement benefits. This House itself has a retirement system. Although we are still working around the pensions, and this is a big issue that some of us who are senior in this House, I see very senior members in this House, are discussing the question of retirement in this profession that we do. The groups within the, this is an act with a very long name called, it's a long retirement name, but it comprises people in the Prime Minister's office, the President's office, Deputy President's office. They all have modern superannuation systems on retirement. Now, you know, a judge, his life is in the courts. Madam Speaker, you have worked in those corridors. There is no life other than the fact that they work in the court. They will do nothing else. They are not eligible for any contract. They cannot do anything for fees. Just like you and me, by the way, you and me, we are in this same thing. Nobody knows, nobody understands that we are not employable in any other thing. But the judges are in a more peculiar situation. You see, a judge works for, say, 30 years and, say, retires at 70 years. My retirement usually is every 5 years. And now I am a few years, just a few months from retirement. But I will still have not reached the age of 70. But this person who works for 30 years, retires at 70, probably has a wife or has a husband who is his or her age mate. They are all, both 70 years. They go home and they are unable to do anything except to rely on the old colonial pension act. This is the context that these judges are coming before us for legislation to design what is the Judges' Retirement Benefits Bill 2025. I want to travel with you through the bill. It's not a very difficult bill. It is just explaining various provisions. And I want to explain that in every of these provisions that we get here, the judges have what is a very reasonable proposals before us. In part 1, it's definitions and the scope of the bill. Part 2 is defined benefits with minimum qualifying service of 10 years. In other words, a judge who serves 10 years becomes eligible under this bill or under the act when it is passed. And provisions prior to service recognition. More importantly, monthly pensions, payment, emoluments, and annual increases based on the consumer price. The last one is additional non-pension benefits such as transport allowance, medical cover, diplomatic passports, lounge access, and so on. In part 3, the bill proposes a defined contribution scheme. This is defined contribution scheme, which is as progressive as the one which has been designed for this House.